And today we are going to take a look at JEPI, which is a stock that I've covered on the channel previously, but I haven't really gone on the channel that much, so I apologize for that, but I'm back and I'm ready to make videos, so let's get back into it. And now is a better time than ever to take a look at JEPI. With an 11.5% eye-popping yield. Why wouldn't you want to look at the stock? And I'm going to describe why this ETF is one of the better ETFs to hold if you're looking for fixed income in your portfolio. So let's get started. Ignore that. Well, the first thing I want to cover with JEPI is essentially why it's better than the S&P 500 and why I think you should consider it in your portfolio. So obviously, just looking at the numbers, we see that the S&P 500 is down 18.34% over the year, when in comparison to JEPI, which is down 10.79% over the year. Now, you might wonder, how are they able to do this? And it's because the fund employs different strategies to prevent the downside on the stock. They call it their own proprietary downside protection, but I think it's mainly just using covered calls and covered puts in order to lower the volatility on this specific security. But I'm going to go ahead and talk more about what this security holds, why it's better than the S&P 500, which is part of what I already detailed, and also how you can lock in that yield at what it is right now. Now, the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about is the management team, which both of these individuals have done a good run in the industry. They've both had over 30 years of experience, so they definitely know what they're doing, and they've gone through these downturns multiple times. I think it's always interesting to look at the history of both of the people that manage the fund, if there's a team, if there's a couple of people, just to get insight into what they used to do, where they used to work, essentially. And, this fund's only been around for a year or two, so it makes sense that it only says they've only been managing for 2 years. And I thought that was important to look at, but, something that I always try to look at and understand before I go ahead and put my hard-earned money into something. So, how does this fund yield 11.5%? This is a question you should always ask with any security that you invest in, any fixed income, any closed-end fund. Well, this fund generates income through a combination of selling options and investing in these U.S. large-cap stocks, generally stocks that are in the S&P 500, and some that aren't, but I'm going to go ahead and detail some of the top holdings in just a second. Now, they also try to deliver a significant portion of their returns with less volatility, as I detailed earlier, although most of the distribution in this fund comes through the dividend, while there is still a second focus on capital appreciation and capital gains. So, let's take a look at the holdings. So, obviously, one of the biggest holdings, these SPXs are actually the covered calls and options, I believe, that they hold on this fund. So, if you see that in the holdings, if you want to see a more detailed, breakdown of all these holdings, I'm going to put a link in the description. But if you look here, you can see that the top 10 holdings, the top 4 companies are, companies that you've probably heard of. You have Progressive, which is an insurance company and a large conglomerate. You have Bristol Myers, which is also a pharmaceutical company. AbbVie, which is also a pharmaceutical company, I believe. And then Hershey, we have the chocolates. What Hershey is. Pretty solid company, solid history. So they basically hold these companies and generate income with the stocks as they go up, and they use a combination of holding the stocks and covered calls and covered puts in order to generate income. Now we're going to look at the sector exposure, which is something I also like to look at when I'm investing in a fund that I plan to hold for a long period of time. We see here that there's a decent breakdown by sector. I'm not going to go ahead and look into each of these sectors and describe them, but if you want to pause the video, you can take a look. I think that this is a well-balanced portfolio, although I wish they did have a higher focus on real estate because, compared to everything else in stocks, real estate is, more of a tangible asset, so I think it's better for a fund to hold more real estate. Mainly, there's some, tax benefits there that I might get into if we cover a REIT on this channel, but, that's my only, problem with this fund. Everything else is pretty good. I wish they had a little bit more real estate exposure, but that's about it. Again, this was a short video, a little presentation about JEPI. Just covering it again on the channel to, bring it back to your guys' attention. 11.5% yield. The last time I covered this, it was only 7 to 8%. So it's nice to see that you can get another 3% and lock it in, which is really dope in my opinion. So if you guys aren't already, make sure to subscribe. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own research, but I do my research and look into the stocks. But you should do your own. And like I said, subscribe, like the video, comment if you have any questions. And thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.